Michael Mays, aka Rocko, sometimes called SpotEm GotEm, grew up around Chicago's violence-weary South Side. His childhood was spent near 51st and Cottage Grove in the Grand Boulevard / Kenwood neighborhood, the heart of territory controlled by the Mickey Cobras and their breakaway faction, 51 Young Money. From an early age, Rocko absorbed the city's street code, daily turf fights, eyes in the backs of heads, and loyalty to your own set. Those who track Chicago's gangs say Rocko quickly earned a reputation as one of 51's youngest, most fearless shooters. 51 Young Money, the breakaway Cobra set. By the late 2000s, the Cobra's old alliances were fracturing. Young members on 53rd Street unified into a renegade clique, calling itself 51 Young Money. Rocko was among this new generation of Cobras, adopting the gang's Y hand sign, thumb and pinky extended, and serving in its ranks. In 2009, the Mickey Cobras from 51st to Drexel formally rebranded as 51 Young Money, breaking with rival Cobra sets like Gutterville. Police and media would later note that even as a teenager, Michael Mays was regarded by 51 as one of their most dangerous members, a reputation he lived up to on Chicago's mean streets. One of the earliest names tied to Rocko in street lore is Wayne Irvin, better known as Lil Weezy of Black Gate, a black disciple set based around 54th in Indiana on Chicago's South Side. On April 28, 2009, Wayne was shot and killed in the 5400 block of South Michigan Avenue. According to the Chicago Tribune, police responded around 9:45 p.m. and found Wayne with gunshot wounds to the head. He was rushed to Stroger Hospital, where he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Despite the media coverage noting the murder, no suspects were ever identified by law enforcement. In the streets, though, it was a different story. Blackgate affiliated graffiti and memorial posts list Wayne among the bodies responsible, claimed by allies of 051. A set Rocko was closely tied to. Internet whispers and gang archives paint a more targeted picture. Wayne was allegedly lured into a setup during a turf dispute between 51 and Blackgate, a calculated strike in the early stages of what would become a deadly and drawn-out feud. On August 1st, 2010, Reginald Riley, aka Lex, age 22, was shot dead at a South Shore house party. Lex, a local from the Gutterville area, and his friend Michael Chapman were outside greeting guests when two gunmen in a red SUV opened fire. Eyewitnesses told police it was a drive-by ambush, but Riley's family insists he had no gang ties. He was simply in the wrong place. No suspects were ever charged in the killings. However, gang accounts note that the shooting took place on turf claimed by 51 Young Money, and they link Rocko to the ambush through Chicago's street rivalries. In other words, while the police file on Lex's death remains cold, rumors on the ground blame Rocko's crew. The name Itchy appears next, a member of THF 46, an older branch of the 46th Street gang. Chicago gang timelines compiled by insiders explicitly credit Rocko with killing Itchy in October 2008. Official reports are silent on this case, and even Itchy's real name is unknown. In gang terms, Itchy slang is described as revenge for earlier conflicts, fitting the pattern of Rocko's involvement in the Cobra 46 feud. In some, the bodies attributed to Michael Rocko Mays are collected from both news archives and underworld chatter. Each of these killings, Wayne, Blackgate, Lex Gutterville, Itchy 46, is steeped in Chicago's turf war mythology. No official conviction ties Rocko to any of them. That story unfolds later, but the pattern is clear. Wherever 51 Young Money fought a rival set, Rocko's name follows. These violent episodes set the stage for what came next. As Chicago police began piecing the pieces together, Michael Mays' world of gang killing would collide with the criminal justice system. These are the murders that Michael Mays is allegedly tied to, not as the main shooter, but as someone who may have played a supporting role. Whether it was driving the car, acting as a lookout, supplying the weapon, or being the second gunman, Mays' name has been mentioned in connection with several killings according to internet speculation, street rumors, and Reddit deep dives. While there may not be official charges for all of these cases, his name continues to surface when people talk about who helped make certain hits happen. In the years after Chicago's drill era dawned, the city's south side became a stage for tit-for-tat murders. 5 young men, known on the street only by street names, would be slain amid these gang wars. This chapter tells their stories. Each man's real name, date, and place of death, and the violent backdrop of Chicago's gang feuds are described from news reports and community discussions. The next chapter will cover the investigations and arrests that followed. Marvin Dickerson, aka Lil Marvin, a young member of the 5th Ward Black Disciples, died in August 2011 under murky circumstances. Records note his death on August 22, 2011, but community sources say he was actually shot to death in Decatur, Illinois. Unlike the others, Marvin's killing was not widely blamed on gang rivals. On Chiracology forums, one poster even insisted his death wasn't gang-related, suggesting a personal dispute or accident took him rather than a taped-up hit. In any case, Marvin's passing cut a thread in 5th Ward's fading gang lineage. His name lives on only in online death lists and memorials, a hint of how the violence of Chicago could even reach beyond the city limits. Timothy Wardlow, aka T-Dub, was a 19-year-old affiliated with Welch World, an offshoot of the So Icy Trap Boys / THF 46 Alliance. On the afternoon of May 11, 2011, he was walking with friends near 39th Street in Lake Park on Chicago's South Side when a gunman stepped out of a car and fired into the group. A single shot hit Lil Tim in the head. He was rushed to Northwestern Memorial Hospital but died the next evening. The murder was quickly placed in context. It came amid an escalating war in the low end between rival sets. In fact, police later identified the shooter as a member of Suwoo TTB, a Black P Stone set on 39th Street, alive with the Ave and 51 Young Money crews. Welch World itself had been renamed WWDC in his honor. His death marked another brutal score in the year's cycle of vengeance. Just days earlier, Welch World had avenged a friend Welch by killing an Ave member, and after Lil Tim's slaying, Young Money shot a 46 member Big Freaky within weeks. In short, Lil Tim's end was wrapped up in a feud. This was actually 05 One Driller's cousin, and he tweeted out dissing him right after his death. Leonard Truss, aka Black, was a teenager from Bronzeville who belonged to THF 46. Late on June 30, 2012, just days before his 18th birthday, Leonard stepped out of a car on 45th Street in Bronzeville when another vehicle pulled up. An assailant jumped out with an AK-47 and sprayed bullets into Leonard. One round struck him in the head and he died instantly at the scene. Chicago Tribune archives described this as one of 2 teens critically wounded on the south side, but Leonard did not survive. His killing shocked the 46th Street gang. They later even adopted the nickname Black World in his memory. The context was grimly familiar. Bronzeville was the front line of the war between THF 46 and the 51 Young Money. Police never released a motive or suspects, but friends say THF 46 members considered it a hit in that ongoing feud. Leonard's was another life cut short in the summer violence. A youth mourned on the streets where he grew up. On the evening of September 26, 2013, 17-year-old Leonard "La Capone" Anderson walked into a Southside Chicago alley and never came out. Anderson, a rising rapper affiliated with Lil Durk's crew and the Black Disciples gang, the 600 set, had just left a recording studio at 70th and Stony Island. Around 6:25 p.m., as he headed toward his ride, a rival gunman stepped from the shadows. Police later identified the shooter as Michael Mays. Witnesses heard multiple gunshots. Anderson was struck in the lower back and thigh and collapsed. Paramedics rushed him to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, but he died a short time later. This alleyway ambush cut short the life of a boy on the rise. 8:57 a.m. Rocko wakes up and tweets out his first post saying, "Can someone tell me good morning?" 6:20 p.m. That day, Anderson exits the studio at 7000 South Stony Island and walks down the adjacent alley. An unknown assailant appears. A figure, later identified as Michael Mays of 51 Young Money, emerges and opens fire. Shots fired. Multiple rounds hit Anderson. One tore through his back and another his thigh. He staggers and collapses. Aftermath: Anderson is taken to hospital but bleeds out. Within hours, Lil Durk, a friend and collaborator, tweets, "R.I.P. Lil Bro," confirming the worst. Rocko then tweeted 6 minutes after, saying this: Anderson's murder was freighted with gang tension. He was a member of the Black Disciples 600 set and often shouted out GDK slang for a Gangsta Disciples killer in his music, heightening a feud with rival crews. In fact, many listeners saw La Capone's own lyrics as a provocation against Mickey Cobras, an offshoot of the Gangsta Disciples, and the 51 Young Money clique to which Mays belonged was allied with those enemies. In other words, this was gang warfare as much as music business, and the alley shooting fit a grim pattern. Police treated Capone's death as an execution. Detectives canvassed the crime scene and interviewed witnesses, but leads ran cold. For nearly a year, the case simmered with no arrests. Then, in August 2014, Chicago police announced they had nabbed 3 suspects in the Lake Capone case: Michael Mays, Saki Hardy Johnson, and Mako Buchanan. All teenagers or young men linked to the 51 Young Money gang were taken into custody. By mid-September 2014, all 3 were formally indicted for first-degree murder. Cook County court records list the indictment date as September 19, 2014. Agreements and statements. Investigators report that each suspect eventually gave statements admitting parts of the plot in custody. All 3 confessed to the crime after being booked. Authorities said that Hardy, Johnson, and Mays admitted they armed themselves and waited in a parked car to run interference. Buchanan later explained he was the getaway driver. By arrest time, headlines focused on Buchanan's sentencing. He would get 45 years, but police made clear Mays and Hardy Johnson were co-defendants in the shooting. In fact, court filings later revealed how detectives zeroed in on Mays. One prosecutor noted that after questioning Mays, detectives wanted to talk to Buchanan next. At a 2017 suppression hearing, Detective John Halloran testified that on August 22, 2014, Chicago police brought Buchanan and Mays in from jail. Buchanan was already held on other charges. He described how Buchanan was Mirandized and eventually confessed that Mays had orchestrated the attack. In the spring of 2017, the 3 defendants faced court. Hard evidence came from jailhouse video and testimony rather than eyewitnesses. A key moment was Buchanan's own recorded confession. He admitted that Mays had phoned him on the afternoon of the shooting and said Capone is at the studio. Buchanan testified that Mays planned to kill Anderson and asked Buchanan to drive the getaway trail car together with Mays, Buchanan, and another accomplice, Amanda Big A. Fitch, who was later killed. In November 2013, pulled up to the studio. As La Capone emerged, Saki Hardy Johnson, riding in the lead car, jumped out and fired the fatal shots. Recorded confession, Buchanan told detectives that on September 6, 2013, he had been hanging out when Mays' Lil Mick called him saying Lil Capone was in the studio. Mays planned to kill Anderson and asked Buchanan to drive the trail car. According to Buchanan's statement, that trail car was meant to block or decoy police if needed. The ambush. Buchanan's account continued. He and Mays drove a parked car behind Hardy Johnson's vehicle. When Capone came out, Hardy Johnson emerged with a handgun and shot him twice, but Buchanan claimed he never fired a weapon. This version matched ballistics and the 2-shot wounds reported by police. Co-defendant testimony. Hardy Johnson and Mays both gave their own recorded statements to police. Each admitted role but downplayed who pulled the trigger. In particular, both later told prosecutors they had armed themselves with a handgun and sat in the parked interference car during the shooting. Throughout the trial, the prosecution painted Mays as the mastermind. Defense arguments later heard on appeal focused on technicalities and hearsay, but the core story was damning. Ultimately, the judge, Mays waived a jury trial, found Michael Mays guilty of first-degree murder. On April 5, 2017, Mays was sentenced to 24 years in prison. His co-defendants received similar or harsher penalties. Buchanan had already pleaded guilty and drawn 45 years, and Hardy Johnson, 17 at the time of the crime, was convicted of murder in early 2017 and awaited sentencing, a juvenile division hearing. According to reports, Hardy Johnson admitted on the stand that he got a gun before going to the studio and acted as lookout. Even after verdicts, the case buzzed with rumors. Online threads and street chatter filled gaps with wild theories. For example, one Reddit commenter claimed an appeals court document noted the judge had considered a phoned ller that Lil Mick had allegedly invited Lil Capone outside by call, a detail never proven in court. Another user reminisced that when Lil Mick and Rockhead once met at a police station, one joked, "We should just blame everything on the third dude." hinting at suspicion they might squabble over responsibility. Such speculation, much of it unverified, only deepened the case's grim mystique. No matter the rumors, the official record stands. Michael Mays was the convicted killer of ller Capone. In the gritty aftermath of that September 2013 shooting, every piece of evidence, from jailhouse tapes to bullet fragments, pointed back to him and his 51 Young Money allies. At sentencing, prosecutors noted that the murder was planned and executed on rival gang orders. Capone's mother and fans still insist on justice, and for his part, Mays is serving his full term at Stateville Correctional Center. His earliest expected release is 2041, when the scars of that alley ambush will be nearly 3 decades old. Michael Mays was also a familiar face to law enforcement in Chicago, beginning his extensive run-ins with authorities on January 3, 2011. On that day, police apprehended him at 5448 S Wabash Avenue for unlawful use of a weapon, marking the start of his documented legal challenges. His next notable arrest occurred nearly 2 years later on September 4, 2012, at 5355 S Cottage Grove Avenue, when authorities charged him with criminal trespass to land. Just over a month later, on October 11, 2012, Michael was caught gambling at 5123 S Indiana Avenue, a minor infraction that further entangled him with the legal system. The seriousness of his encounters escalated on November 17, 2012. At 5031 S Cottage Grove Avenue, authorities arrested him for street gang contact while on parole, a violation indicating deepening legal troubles. By February 16, 2013, Michael's activities had significantly escalated when he was arrested at 116 E50 Surf Street for armed robbery involving a firearm, highlighting the increasingly dangerous trajectory of his offenses. Throughout 2013, Michael's confrontations with the law persisted. On March 5th at 5947 S Parnell Avenue, and again on September 5th at 5000 S Champlain Avenue, police booked him for reckless conduct. Then on October 13th at 830 Ehi Park Boulevard, he faced arrest for failure to appear in court, demonstrating growing defiance toward judicial proceedings. The start of 2014 continued his problematic pattern as he was arrested again on January 26 at 6209 S Greenwood Avenue for violating probation conditions, indicating a troubling disregard for the law's authority. Michael's criminal record deepened on April 11, 2014 at 6258 S Vernon Avenue with another arrest for violating probation. His offenses diversified on May 15, 2014 when he faced charges for criminal trespass to real property at 5152 S Calumet Avenue. On July 12, 2014, authorities apprehended Michael at 735 E49th Street for aggravated possession of a stolen motor vehicle, a charge underscoring an escalation in criminal complexity. The situation reached a critical and tragic peak on August 20, 2014, when Michael was arrested at 5101 S Wentworth Avenue for first-degree murder, a severe crime cementing his notoriety in Chicago's criminal history.
R.I.P. the guys, man. R.I.P. my homies, man. 6100 shit, man. You know where I'm coming. Iced up. Niggas better step up, man. You think you gonna rob me? That shit dead, boy. I'm team no fucking lacking, B. Team no lacking, B. That's what it is, the movement.